Tonight, severe storms and flash flooding targeting the Midwest, the fast-moving wildfire near the Grand Canyon exploding in size, and the mandatory evacuations, and the search for the missing in Central Texas as the region faces yet another flash flood threat. First, severe storms bashing the heartland stretching from western Kentucky to Michigan. Overnight, 70-mile-per-hour wind gusts from Colorado to Illinois, knocking down trees and power lines. A life-threatening flash flood emergency in Davenport, Iowa. Our weather team tracking it all. And in Central Texas, memorials in the midst of devastation. At least 129 dead, with more than 160 still missing. We're with Navy SEALs and their team of expert divers assisting with the search and recovery efforts. Also tonight, new details on the Air India flight crash. Was it sabotage? The confusion in the cockpit as fuel to the plane's engines was shut off just seconds after takeoff. The pilots questioning each other. What we're learning from a new report. The deep divisions among President Trump's administration and his supporters over the Jeffrey Epstein investigation. Top Justice Department and FBI officials pointing the finger at each other over the decision to close the high-profile probe. What we're learning tonight. The new tariff threat. President Trump now says he'll impose 30% tariffs on imports from Mexico and the European Union. The high-stakes negotiations. Selina Wang is at the White House tonight. A federal judge has ordered the Trump administration to temporarily stop those controversial immigration sweeps and arrests in California, saying they are being made without probable cause. How the White House is responding. Those raids triggering protests across the U.S. The New York Yankees' Aaron Judge makes history, how he slugged his way into the record books. America strong, reuniting those surviving campers with their cherished items after the catastrophic floods in Central Texas.
From ABC News World Headquarters in New York, this is World News Tonight.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us on this Saturday. I'm Martha Raddatz, in for Whit Johnson. We begin with severe storms and flash flooding targeting the heartland. Millions under flood watches and the search and recovery in Central Texas after the deadly and catastrophic flooding. Severe weather targeting the heartland overnight. This time-lapse video capturing an ominous view of storms rolling through parts of Illinois. And a flash flooding emergency in Davenport, Iowa. Cars submerged underwater as residents wade through the waist-deep floodwaters. We're with Navy SEALs as they assist with the search and recovery mission in Central Texas, with 129 dead and more than 160 still missing. The region is now facing yet another flash flood threat. Our weather team is standing by with the forecast. But first, ABC's Jaclyn Lee leads us off tonight from Kerrville, Texas.
Tonight, the flash flood threat facing the heartland, millions under flood watches. Iowa recovering from these devastating flash floods in the last 24 hours.
Girl, that is so scary.
I'm pretty sure there is people in there.
Ow.
Multiple cars submerged, some residents there up to their waists in water.
Look what's going down the street.
As cars drive in the opposite direction, you can see a portable toilet being carried away by the fast-moving floodwaters. And parts of the Grand Canyon evacuated due to massive and rapidly growing wildfires spanning more than 20,000 acres. In Texas, communities grieving. Last night, a vigil held in Kerr County for the more than 120 people killed by that devastating flash flooding.
And I'm just so thankful to be here. My heart goes out to all of these folks.
The Hammond family remembering their 17-year-old daughter, Malaya. Their last view of her, she was floating on her back, singing hymns down the river after saving her siblings from that raging water.
Rise and shine and give God the glory, glory.
On Monday, they found her body a mile away, washing up on the shore of a church.
So just knowing that we found her body and knowing 100% that she is now with God, it's brought us so much closure.
But the search continues for the more than 160 people still missing. We exclusively embedded with a team of over 30 Navy SEALs, volunteering their elite training to comb through the terrain.
None of us have seen anything like this, but I think everybody was just taking it in and just like realizing what just happened here.
So you've seen a lot.
And this is the worst you've seen?
Yeah. Stuff overseas is different. This hits home.
And tonight, a new report from the Associated Press indicates that Camp Mystic, where 27 campers and counselors died from those devastating floodwaters, were originally included on a 2011 national flood insurance map that would have required it to have higher insurance costs and stricter regulations on new construction. But after successive appeals over several years, federal regulators removed numerous buildings at Camp Mystic from those maps. FEMA downplaying that report tonight, saying those flood maps do not predict where it will flood or where it has flooded in the past. Meanwhile, here on the ground, a new flash flood threat to the area as cleanup continues. Martha.
Jaclyn, thank you. Let's get right to meteorologist Danny Beckstrom from our New York station WABC. And Danny, Central Texas is facing another flash flood threat. Time it out for us.
Martha, that new flash flood threat, part of the same system that triggered the severe weather in the Midwest yesterday. And that severe threat continues tonight from Paducah up to Michigan, with damaging wind being the primary concern. But back to the soaking in the southern plains, flood watches for much of Oklahoma and Texas as rounds of rain and storms sweep through this weekend. The heaviest rain focused north and west of the Texas Hill Country so far, but that changes tomorrow as downpours shift south, focusing the flooding on areas still cleaning up from last weekend. Meanwhile, in the west, it's hot and dry, fueling those wildfires, and now the heat builds north. A heat advisory in Portland on Sunday with highs in the mid-90s, and even the typically hot desert Southwest sees extreme heat heading into the work week near 112 in Vegas on Monday. Martha?
We're all keeping track of that, Danny. Thank you. Now to the new details on the Air India crash and new questions about possible sabotage. The confusion in the cockpit as fuel to the plane's engines was shut off just seconds after takeoff. The pilots questioning each other. The new details tonight from a preliminary report. Here's ABC's Lama Hasan.
Tonight, the mystery into what caused Air India Flight 171, flying from Ahmedabad bound for London's Gatwick Airport, to crash last month deepens. The newly released preliminary report shows investigators focusing now on those fuel cutoff switches and whether this was a deliberate act.
Fuel switches deliberately were turned off, shutting off fuel to the engines and shutting those two engines down. What we don't know is who did it, and we don't know why they did it.
New questions about why both control switches that provide the engines with fuel were turned off about 3 seconds into the flight and turned back on about 10 seconds later. New images from the aftermath do show those fuel control switches firmly in the run position, but it was too late. The engines failed to regain thrust.
We know that these switches didn't get bumped. We know that it was a deliberate action where you have to actually lift the switch and move it to the other position. It's not something that can be bumped from one position to another.
According to the report, both pilots are heard discussing the switches in the cockpit voice recording.
We do know that one of the pilots asked the other pilot, why did you move those switches? Why did you cut off the fuel to both of the engines? The other pilot said, I didn't do it. One of them is not telling the truth.
There have been at least 2 deliberate plane crashes in recent years. The German Wings co-pilot intentionally bringing down the plane in the Alps, killing 150 people on board. And Egypt Air Flight 990, the co-pilot crashing the aircraft 60 miles south of Nantucket.
And at this stage, investigators are not looking at technical or maintenance failures. Steve said that the report is very clear that there is nothing wrong with the 787 or the engines that power that airplane. Martha.
Lama, thank you. Deep divisions among President Trump's administration and his supporters over the Jeffrey Epstein investigation, with a reported spat between top Justice Department and FBI officials over the decision to close the high-profile probe. Here's ABC's senior White House correspondent, Selina Wang.
Tonight, the extraordinary political crisis inside the White House. Top leadership at the Justice Department and FBI in turmoil, under fire over their handling of the investigation into sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. Trump's most loyal supporters erupting after the DOJ and FBI released a joint memo saying there is no client list. Sources tell ABC News Deputy FBI Director Dan Bongino is considering resigning after clashing with Attorney General Pam Bondi.
Pam, if you can't do your job, we'll find someone who will. I have nothing against Pam Bondi, but if you want to look for the villain in this story, we have found her.
For years, Bongino and FBI Director Kash Patel fueled conspiracies about Epstein's death. The case became a symbol for the MAGA movement, a promise to take down the so-called corrupt elite.
Folks, you're going to see a lot of names on that. The Epstein client list, there's a reason they're hiding it.
Bondi seemed to vow to reveal it.
It's sitting on my desk right now to review.
She now says she was referring to the whole report and not a client list. But officials like Patel, who once backed those claims, now closing the door. Tonight, Patel posting the conspiracy stories just aren't true, never have been. The DOJ reiterating previous findings that Epstein died by suicide with no credible evidence of blackmail and saying there would be no further investigation. And tonight, President Trump coming to Bondi's defense for the first time in public since the controversy began, posting that she's doing a fantastic job, adding that we're on one team, MAGA, and I don't like what's happening, and let's not waste time and energy on Jeffrey Epstein. As the outrage grows, sources tell ABC News Bondi has fired at least 20 prosecutors and support staffers who worked on former special counsel Jack Smith's investigations into President Trump.
And Martha, today President Trump announced more tariffs on some of our biggest trading partners, 30% on the European Union and Mexico, that go into effect on August 1st. Both are slamming the move, saying they were in active negotiations with the U.S. The EU is warning that this will harm consumers and businesses on both sides of the Atlantic. Martha?
Thank you, Selina. And tune in to This Week tomorrow morning. Jonathan Karl speaks with National Economic Council Chair Kevin Hassett about President Trump's shifting strategy on tariffs. Next tonight, a federal judge ordering the Trump administration to stop those controversial immigration sweeps and arrests in California, calling them, quote, indiscriminate. The White House now planning to appeal. And we're learning tonight that more than 300 people were arrested during a raid on California's cannabis farm. Here's ABC's Zareen Shaw.
Tonight, a major federal ruling shaking the immigration landscape. A U.S. judge ordering the Trump administration to suspend what the court calls indiscriminate enforcement sweeps across 7 California counties. In a striking rebuke, the judge declared immigration agents cannot detain someone based on their race, spoken language, or job, emphasizing those in custody must not be denied legal counsel, and law enforcement must have reasonable suspicion that the person to be stopped is within the United States in violation of U.S. immigration law.
We will be in compliance with all federal judges' orders, but what he said that we couldn't do is go out and target people based on other qualifications that he made up. We're going to continue to do our investigations on criminal activity and uphold the law.
It comes as clashes at law enforcement operations have grown more violent. At a cannabis farm outside Los Angeles, video showing heavily armed agents deploying flash devices, workers seen scattering into nearby fields. And an urgent manhunt tonight after footage emerged showing a suspect allegedly opening fire on federal officers. The FBI ordering a $50,000 reward for their capture. President Trump taking to social media, calling demonstrators thugs and accusing them of launching rocks and bricks at ICE officers while they were moving down a roadway in their car. He vowed total authorization for ICE to protect itself and demanded that arrests begin immediately. And today, outrage in Florida as Democratic lawmakers descended on a controversial new immigration detention center deep in the Everglades, deemed Alligator Alcatraz. They say the harsh conditions are no accident.
The cruelty is the point. I mean, it is brutally hot, as we can all see. There are insects everywhere. These are not conditions that you should ever put anyone in.
And Martha, that California judge's ruling is temporary. A full hearing is set to take place in the coming days. Martha?
Our thanks to you, Zareen. Now to the war in Ukraine and a massive attack by Russia. The overnight strike left at least 10 people dead. Ukraine's Air Force says Russia launched nearly 600 drones and dozens of missiles. Ukrainian President Zelensky is again urging the West to impose more sanctions on Moscow. President Trump has promised to deliver a major statement on Russia on Monday. Still ahead on World News this Saturday, new details on that Arkansas prison escape. The punishments handed out 2 months after a convicted killer went on the run. And a Pennsylvania town remembers the man killed the day a would-be assassin fired at Donald Trump. 2 Arkansas prison guards had been fired in the so-called Devil in the Ozarks escape. In May, convicted killer and former police chief Grant Hardin walked out of a prison wearing a fake law enforcement uniform. He was caught after 12 days. State officials say the incident has triggered a full review of prison security procedures. Today, a tribute to the firefighter killed during the assassination attempt last year of then-candidate Donald Trump. Butler, Pennsylvania, holding Corey's Cruise, a motorcycle ride honoring Corey Comparator. Tomorrow marks a year since he died shielding his family from gunfire at a Trump rally. This week, 6 Secret Service agents were suspended for what the agency called failures connected to the attack. When we come back, the Yankees' Aaron Judge rises in baseball's record books. To the index, a record-breaking blast for Aaron Judge. The New York Yankees right fielder slugged his 350th career home run this afternoon in a loss to the Chicago Cubs. It took Judge 1,088 games. That's the fastest in Major League history. He beat the old mark held by Mark McGwire by nearly 200 games. It was Judge's 35th homer of the season. When we come back, the soothing power of stuffed animals in the Texas Hill Country. Finally tonight, America Strong. Mothers come together to try to ease the pain after the Texas floods.
It is a heartbreaking reminder of the young lives shattered. Amid the devastation from the July 4th flash floods, the children's cherished belongings. Soon after the waters receded, parents of those lost and those who survived began posting photos, pleading online for help finding their child's stuffed animals. That's when Libby Crawford, a mom from San Antonio, jumped into action, telling our affiliate KSAT,
I have several friends that seemed like their daughter's trunks were gone, like everything gone. So anything we can do just to help.
Creating a Facebook page she calls Camp Mystic Jellycat Reunion Group, named after a popular stuffed animal brand.
I opened it up and I was like, oh my God, there's over 500 people in here now, like in 2 days.
People began posting photos of stuffed animals found in the debris on the page.
My 4-year-old and I spotted this morning in Kerrville in the floodwaters.
Another post reads, "This guy was found on Sunday by the river. We would love to return him to his proper home." Libby determined to keep doing what she can to help ease the pain.
If you can just give them one little piece of their childhood back and their innocence, let's try.
And they tried so hard. Thanks to all of those mothers and everyone who helped. And thank you for watching. I'm Martha Raddatz. Have a great evening.
Thank you for making World News Tonight with David Muir, America's most watched newscast.